I want to believe that I've elevated the quality of my mistakes because there are some mistakes I'm making that nobody's ever heard of the thing I was trying to do. If 5 people know you, they shouldn't have 5 different stories about who you are. Being compassionate with yourself is number one, because when you do that, then you can see other people through a compassionate lens that, oh, they must be having a bad day today. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Signature Life Podcast. My name is Roselee Mathu, and I'm your host. We're back. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have you be here. If you're interested in the topics that we're going to be discussing, please like, subscribe, comment every time something grabs you. And let's get into the first topic. Today, I want to talk to you about elevating the quality of your mistakes. My brain works in an interesting way. Some things that happen in regular life always translates to how things operate in business. So I was having a conversation with my daughter. She's in her senior year of high school, and we're going to college. And I had a panic moment of a parent wanting to make sure that you're preparing your child for whatever it is that they are going to encounter. What I wanted her to know was that the mistakes that we made when we were in college are not mistakes that she needs to make, and to be a person who observes other people's mistakes and the consequences so that she can make her own mistakes. And that's when the idea of elevating the quality of the mistakes you're making came about. So you don't want to make mistakes over and over again and not learn from them. You want to make sure that when something happens, you see what happened, why it happened. Do you like what happened? And if you don't like what happened, then you need to make an adjustment. I'm a person who, if I don't like the consequences, I don't need it to happen to me twice. And so I want to believe that I've elevated the quality of my mistakes because there are some mistakes I'm making that nobody's ever heard of the thing I was trying to do. And then they're like, and why are you doing that in the first place? But the things I want to do are the things I want to do. So when I translated to my business, when I first started, there's the mistakes you make about hair, right? I'm a loctician, and you're making mistakes that are technique related. Maybe you didn't assess the hair well. Maybe you did something that was inappropriate for the hair or for the client. One thing that used to always happen to me is I didn't have a system about how I went around the hair. I moved through the head. So I would leave clips or leave some locks undone, right? Especially if the client had a lot of hair. There are some clients that have so much hair, you put so many clips in there, then you forget them because the hair is just that much. So the first time a client said, hey, you left out some locks, I was like, oh, that's terrible. So then I came up with a system. I start here and I end here. Then I started leaving clips in the hair. So now I decided my system was, let me spray the hair so that I go through it to make sure that there are no clips left in there. There are levels to the type of mistakes, as I said. So that was level 1. I was making mistakes with the hair. Then I sorted out the things that I was making mistakes with the hair. I got continuing education when I needed it. I changed my processes when I needed them. That was building a system around making improvements. So now at the level that I'm at, I'm not dealing with hair issues. I'm dealing with people issues, and that's another level. When you're in business, providing the service is one thing. Dealing with the people is another thing. And you can create systems around dealing with the people as well. You always want to try to have a system about remembering the client's name, what happened to them last time when they came in, so that you build that connection, right? That's a system, right? There are certain questions you find yourself asking each person so that you guys can reconnect from whatever happened last time. And then there are conflicts that happen during the process of interacting with people. And this is where you can build systems around the boundaries that you have. The first boundaries you need to have are the written ones that have to do with how the service is offered. But after you've been serving people for a while, there's some things that come up that are interpersonal. Maybe you cracked a joke that wasn't appropriate or client found appropriate. Maybe you found out something that you didn't know about the client and you hadn't had that conversation before. The level of mistakes that you make at that level are different. For example, now that you've been tuning into the Signature Life podcast for a while, I'd like to invite you into an opportunity. In fact, it is the opportunity that created the Signature Life podcast, and it's called the Signature Lock Method. Let me tell you, the Signature Lock Method is how I've been running my business over time. You know, I love systems, and during COVID, I discovered that my system was working. While other people were taking 15 hours to do their client's hair, I was getting done within 3 to 4 hours like normal because the system was working. I've been able to help other people get their system together to go from being overwhelmed and burnt out to having peaceful businesses that allow them to take their kids to Disney, to take a month off, whatever you want to do because it's your signature. So the Signature Life podcast was inspired by the Signature Lock Method, which is a 3-day intensive allowing you to create your signature business. You want to create an environment that's not only good for you, but it's good for your clients as well. And I give you the systems to help you maintain that. So if you're not at work, the systems are working. If you're interested, you can visit www.thesignaturelockmethod.com, or you can click on the show notes below. And now let's get back to the episode. People have different religions, right? I used to like to play gospel music in the salon, and the client was a Jehovah's Witness. They don't listen to gospel music. I want her to feel comfortable in my space, even though it's my space. But we had to have that conversation, and I was surprised that not all people who go to church or different religions listen to gospel music. So we were able to have that conversation, and once I learned about that, then I made an adjustment. What I want you to come away with is there are levels of mistakes. The low level is the ones that everybody's making this mistake. For example, everybody knows if you have unprotected sex, you might have a baby. Like, that's a low level mistake. You already know that, right? And then there's the mistake that you make an assumption about someone's situation, and then you have to have conversation about that. Take your mistakes up a notch. Try to be self-reflective. And the way we do that is by reflecting on ourselves so that we can be congruent. As you guys know, I have a framework that is called the 3 C's: congruence, capacity, and compassion. And we'll be covering them throughout the course of the podcast. And if that's something that resonates with you, make sure you like, subscribe, you comment, and we can talk more about what these things mean to us as we grow. But congruence is the alignment between how you feel, who you know yourself to be, and the actions that you take. So when something happens, a mistake happens, the first thing to do is reflect. This thing that happened, is this who I want to be? Is this who I say I am? And if it's not, then what adjustment needs to be made? And that is the system that you put in place so that if you ever encounter this thing again, then you have a way to deal with it. And then the next time you'll be dealing with something different because you've already built a system around not repeating a mistake. We want to be people who are aligned with who we want to be. And that the evidence, congruence is about the evidence of you being who you say you want to be. And if someone points that out, that you're not being who you said you were, are you making a change, or do you need to adjust so that you become the person you said you want to be? That is the beginning topic. I hope it's not too heavy for you, although we're going to get heavier later. I want us to elevate the quality of the mistakes we're making. I want us to be reflective people who can see when the mistakes we're making are impacting others in a negative way, and whether that negativity is this who I want to be, or is that other person tripping? Let me ask you a question. Have you ever wanted to have like a place where you can answer the client's DMs, you can check your emails, respond to text messages, all in one place? Let me tell you, there is such a thing. It's called the locked-in system. It is your all-in-one CEO command center. You hear that? I said CEO. You are now the CEO of your business, because that's how you run your signature life and your signature business. If you're scattered, you're missing appointments, you're double booking, your clients don't know your policies, all that can be contained in one system, the locked-in system. This is life-changing for you to be able to know that your processes are running, that your clients know where they're supposed to be, that you know where you're supposed to be, and you're not missing anything. So if you're interested, visit thelockedinsystem.com or the show notes at the bottom. And now, back to the episode. I want to introduce you to my 3 C's framework. And let me tell you what the 3 C's are. The first C is congruence. And Congruence came about because I was doing geometry homework with my daughter. In my former life, I was a scientist. I used to work in the lab. They're words they're the same word, but they mean different things in different arenas. So she was doing geometry homework and they were covering triangles. And there's such a thing as an isosceles triangle, and it has two equal sides. And the terminology for that is congruent, that the two sides are congruent. So in helping her homework, I was just trying to reinforce that she understood the concept. And she looked at the triangle. She said the two sides were equal. And then I asked her, does congruent mean equal? And she said yes. As I mentioned earlier, things happen in my brain that connect to my life or to work. The idea of being equal on the inside and the outside is where the framework of who you want to be, who you say you want to be, who you feel yourself to be, and the activity that you put out should go together. So when people think of you, when people talk about you, if 5 people know you, they shouldn't have 5 different stories about who you are. Being congruent means all 5 people are like, yeah, you're describing the same person. Congruent in business, it's about being who you are, and let the actions of who you are design the business that you want to build and attract the people that are congruent with who you are so that you can grow together. We want to build businesses that grow together and also they are peaceful, because if you're aligned with the people that you're serving, the quality of the service is even on another level. The second C is capacity. If we think about a container, we always think about capacity as what the container can hold. And we're thinking of ourselves as that container as well. What can we hold? This C came about as a result of spending 3 months in the hospital with my dad. And I was able to see how the nurse's capacity, the doctor's capacity, the patient's capacity, my capacity. I was able to see how different people can handle more or less in a given situation. So in this situation, my dad was in the hospital. He couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't do anything. I saw his capacity for being still was being challenged. Sometimes the nurses were overworked and their capacity for being nice was not there. For me, my capacity, I was able to see that I could expand my capacity for being patient because everybody else was falling off on a level, right? So somebody had to be the person that can bring it in, calm things down, whatever the situation needed. I saw that I have the capacity to do that, which was a surprising and affirming thing to discover about myself. So when we think about capacity in our business, so we're talking about how many clients you can handle, those clients' energy, can you handle? Are you going through some emotional things? What's your emotional capacity? What's your mental capacity? What's your spiritual capacity, right? And all those things have an ability to be expanded, but also they have an ability to be capped. And it's your job, if you're congruent, to know where your caps are so that you can, in advance, manage yourself, your ability to be compassionate, which is the third C. Your ability to interact with people with kindness is impacted by your capacity. And that brings us to compassion, which is the third C, where you can be compassionate first with yourself. First, you want to know that you've done all you can, and that's good enough. And so you don't beat yourself up for what you can't do or what you should have done or what could have been done. You're compassionate with yourself that you did your best at the time, that you did what you intended to do, and you're okay. You will use kind words with yourself. Every time you look at yourself, you're compassionate with the words that you use to uplift yourself. Because if you don't do that, then you're going to believe what other people are pouring into you. But if you do, you can reject it if it doesn't apply because it's not congruent. We're always going to get back there. Being compassionate with yourself is number one. Because when you do that, then you can see other people through a compassionate lens that, oh, they must be having a bad day today, but that doesn't mean I have to have a bad day with them. Oh, they did tell me that they were going through X, Y, and Z. I can be compassionate, but that's probably why they're doing this other thing. We want to be able to use our lens of how we treat ourselves so that we treat other people better. And that's what the 3 C's are about. They're about knowing who you are, standing firm in who you are. So even in compassion, when you're trying to enforce a boundary, your boundary has to do with who you are. It's easier for you to enforce your boundary when you know that that's not who I am. Your compassion comes in with the intention that you're trying to maintain who you are cannot be compromised. So therefore, you cannot compromise for someone else. You have to stay who you are. And the compassion is the kindness that you show the person that, you know what, I understand that that's what you want me to do, but I'm not able to do that. And you don't have to yell and scream and jump down their throat about it. I'm just not able to do this with kindness. And you feel good. They might not feel good. You can't help that, but you have to stay who you are. And that's how the 3 C's work together. So if you want more on how you can become congruent, how you can watch your capacity, how you can be more compassionate, that's what we're here to discuss. Through the lens of life, through the lens of business, so that our complete signature life can be created. So I look forward to seeing you again. And in the meantime, stay compassionate, watch your capacity, be congruent.